Battlefield 6 debuted to the world last weekend as the beta got underway, and I was fortunate enough to bag myself an early access key thanks to a well-known website dishing them out at only 99p a pop. So let's run down my takeaways from the beta now that the heart rate is returning to normal. First up, likes. Let's be honest, Battlefield 6 is a stunning game, but you really need to stop and take it in to appreciate just how good it looks. The at times insane levels of carnage make it hard to do anything other than fight for a mere extra second of life before you're inevitably slain. But even then, the building details as they crumble and dust into the line of fire, the lighting effects particularly down the Isles of Cairo and the mountainous region of Liberation Peak are really nice. There's a beautiful finish to the game that really feeds into the overall experience, bringing Battlefields to life. Battlefield has always had its own unique feel, where guns feel weighted and the soldier feels like they're actually slogging heavy gear around, especially when sprinting. This isn't as extreme as Battlefield 5, but it still took a few rounds and some setting tweaks to get a favourable feel. Especially coming from Call of Duty Warzone, like a huge host was probably will have been. Your brain's hardwired to do the reflex omni move away from fire, and it takes a bit of time to accept that you can't do that. I was just realising you can't mantle absolutely everything, and walls are no longer your friend. They will betray you, as they just disappear into nothing. But once dialed in, Battlefield has a favourable pacing which ensures that all players feel they're contributing to the overall effort, whether you're assaulting at breakneck speed or cautiously approaching the war zone. Honestly, I only played Conquest and Breakthrough because I wanted that full-blooded Battlefield experience with vehicle warfare and absolute chaos going on all around. Of the two, Breakthrough was probably my favourite, despite some games feeling unplayable when you're on the defending side with the amount of spawn dying that was going on. It almost felt like an exercise in stat crushing, but the mode as a whole is very good, and I wanted to stick at it despite moments of frustration. Storming a line with your squad and winning the capture was a real buzz, and atmospherically, it's mega cinematic with helicopters flying overhead, tank battles popping off, shrapnel flying everywhere, explosions. It was mental. Conquest is much the same, but what frustrated me the most with that mode is the number of times you'd be shot from behind. Yeah, it might be a skill issue, but having a successful push ruined by a couple of rogues looping around the rear was quite annoying. Siege of Cairo, Liberation Peak and Iberian Offensive were the maps available over the first beta weekend, and I really enjoyed them all. However, the map rotation for me seemed to favour Siege of Cairo, as I would find myself doing this map back to back to back at times. The map was great, with tight alleys and choke points where you could get into some real trouble or make a positive push. The indoor battles were mental, and medics had their work out for them as other classes were dropping like flies, if the medic ever turned up. The tanks coming together in the central street was cinematic, and making a daring run across it felt movie-like. Iberian Offensive played much the same. In fact, it felt a little similar to Siege of Cairo, just draped in an urban setting and with more prevalent elevation changes, particularly on a couple of the capture points. Finally, Liberation Peak, my favourite map of the weekend, despite it most likely being my biggest graveyard. I love the long distance vantage points and sniper play available. As an infantryman, it was wild dipping and diving between rocks to avoid wandering scopes, and the added tanks bullying their way to the front line made pushes great fun, and having aircraft available added further cinema to an already stunning location. The destruction levels felt about right, not too over the top, and the way the buildings and the environment in general would fragment and collapse felt organic and not forced event like a set piece would be. Knowing you can blow enemies cover clean away was hugely satisfying, and being an infantryman caught amid two tanks destroying themselves and the nearby area was wild. So too was running through an area under heavy fire to resupply teammates or revive an ally. You felt heroic for making the run successfully. I don't recall seeing full buildings collapse, but obliterating all walls and some of the upper levels of taller buildings was so good to execute. In a similar vein to destruction, the environment responding to your tank mauling its way around a map, through walls and over cars, felt great. You felt like a titan. So when coming up against another tank, you know it's about to get messy, and generally, all that's left is the victor seen through a thick haze of smoke or sand. Teaming up with a capable driver or machine gunner, coupled with engineers for repairs, takes the experience to an all other level, as you can hugely impact the flow of matches, and staying alive for an extended period dominating the map is top tier. One thing I did discover is you can bully other tanks by ramming them and even turning them over, leaving them sitting ducks to cannon fire. I didn't get to use fighter jets or helicopters, but to be fair they didn't cause much land battle issues that I noticed, so I would be interested to know what effect they can have on the battle. For me, the attack helicopters should be terrifying when seen, but more often than not, players just paid no attention to them, which is a shame. Could be teething issues, players not knowing how to utilise them yet, but it would be nice to see infantry scrambling all over for anti-air to try and take out one when it arrived. I was a big fan of the point system attributed to modifying weapons. It felt generous and like you could really change the weapon to suit your playstyle, and I only fell foul of the points limit twice as I tried to stick absolutely everything that I'd unlocked onto the guns. Same too for the classes. Support, for example, carried a fuck off heavy LMG, which I hated as it was cumbersome and took a week to drop to the sights and actually fire the damn thing, and even when you did, you just redecorated the room rather than hit the fucking enemy. So I was made up to find that I could ditch the LMG weapons altogether and run with a more favourable assault rifle, which made the push for the 100 revive challenge a bearable experience. Battlefield delivers tenfold in this department, whether pushing to capture a point in Conquest or break a line in Breakthrough. All elements of the game are on show at once. Support's diving in to keep the line alive, resupply ammo, recon on Overwatch, engineers RPGing the hell out of everything in sight, assault being the meat shields, and tanks rumbling around, obliterating the environment. It's a damn good game when all this comes together, and successfully making the capture of a point is a fuck yeah moment. I'm going to mention Call of Duty here, but only to explain the difference in sound effect use. For example, in Call of Duty you can hear singular directional elements such as running, sliding, reloads, etc. Whereas in Battlefield 6 it is just one big clusterfuck of chaos. And I mean that in the best way possible. It's so immersive and all encapsulating that it's easy to be snuck up on, as you can barely hear footsteps coming over all the gunfire, explosions, tank cannons, building collapses, you name it. With headphones on, you could be forgiven for twitching at the sound of unsighted grenades going off in your ear or an RPG round glancing by. You're so in the moment with Battlefield 6, it's an experience rather than a game, and it can leave you feeling exhausted after a session. And now for the dislikes. The first 2 days were a baptism of fire. It was a frustrating cycle of spawn die, as you were gunned down almost instantly, and then watched helplessly as every medic on the team ran over your body or crouched rubbing the fucking gooch on your face despite numerous calls for help. In fact, looking online, I'm not the only one with this grievance. The lack of being revived was a common trend over the entire beta until the Sunday. For me at least, when every medic suddenly became Andrew fucking Garfield from Axar Ridge and would risk it all for a revive. Honestly, I think this was because they were trying to complete the 100 revives challenge before the weekend finished, rather than trying to play the support class. Medics, please do your fucking job. My god, the snipers. And I don't mean the enemy snipers, I mean the fucking sniper that I was given to murder with. I just couldn't do it. It took me multiple matches to settle in and land shots, pissing about with the rangefinder function, whatever the fuck that did. Admittedly, I am a terrible sniper and I always have been, but this felt like a million ways to die in the West where Seth MacFarlane couldn't even hit the fucking bottles from point blank range. It proper baffled me. But once settled in, I did enjoy the cat and mouse style of gameplay the recon offered, where like a mere hint of a scope glint and you could be dead. That was really enjoyable, but best of all, because I couldn't snipe, I just threw C4 everywhere with the fucking world to bits. Specifically aircraft. The vehicles themselves were great, really fun to use when you actually got to go in one. I appreciate it was a beta and this may not be representative of the finished product, but Maverick was airborne in his fucking jet before you could even click which class you wanted to be, and that was pretty much that as far as the aircraft went. You just didn't get a look in. It would have been nice for the rest of us to have a whiz about in some aircraft. The tanks were plentiful, but again you had to be grease fucking lightning if you wanted to drive and command a cannon. It felt like you couldn't just fancy you going a vehicle at any given moment. You had to decide prior to the match that you were going to commit to being like a vehicle type player for that round. But it would have been nice for us all to have it going on. We touched on this a little earlier, but it really did piss me off. The mode felt unwinnable at times, just getting mauled for the entire match, particularly on Liberation Peak, where you just get sniped a mile away before you even made a single play, or an impact on the game at all. You were just in for a hide in the second the match began, as a defender. So I just hope that some balance comes to that mode for the defending team, in the full release. So now we've covered the likes and dislikes, just some general thoughts on the beta weekend as a whole. So for me, it ran smoothly. Considering the demand, there'll win hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people trying to get a go. But it was fine for me. Didn't experience any insane queue times. There was a couple of things where it flashed up saying you're 85,000 in the queue, but I was literally waiting a couple of minutes before I was logged in and raring to go again. The menu broke a couple of times, says some modes are unavailable, you need to have a PS subscription to play online, but that just literally just reboot the game, close it down, reboot it, fixed it fine. The game would sometimes not load in, like you'd get a game ready to go, it'd say matchmaking complete or whatever it said in green writing, and then it'd go to like the Battlefield 6 sort of main menu picture, but it would just flash. Again, just rebooted it, went back in. So yeah, I mean, if you're bothered about having to reboot a fucking beta for 2 seconds, then it is a problem, but it didn't bother me. I like that there were challenges for the beta, a reason to play different classes, because like, I wouldn't have touched Recon if it wasn't for the challenge. But as I say, Recon actually kind of became my favourite thing to experience, despite it being frustrating. I couldn't hit a fucking band or with a nuclear warhead, but the cat and mouse style ducking around, like we mentioned earlier, I really did like that. So it was good, and the beta this weekend has got new challenges, and I think it's an extra map. We've got a new map coming this weekend. But yeah, the game's just fucking is, and I can't wait for the second beta weekend. I think this weekend I'm considering streaming rather than making a video, because what else is there to say? Let's just get stuck into it, let's do it. And if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I will be back.